signal now for when I'm needed. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning to them.
Yes, sir. Welcome to Beyond the Bat Signal. I'm your host, Dominic Unica. Join me as we dive into the depths of Batman's lore, dissecting the Rogues Gallery, and uncovering the stories of our iconic vigilante known as the Dark Knight. Beyond the Bat Signal is a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network, hosted by Batman on Film. Visit their website to see a list of shows that you can check out, which obviously yours truly is on there. BOF, of course, is on there. And then a couple of former guests, big-time guests, Ryan Lauer and his Batman Book Club. And we got Peter R. Vera. He's got a couple on there with Straight Outta Gotham and even the Italian Spider-Man Coalition, which I made an appearance on as well. They're all solid podcasts. I listen to every single one of them. And honestly thoroughly enjoy. Definitely go check it out. Just check out batman-on-film.com as they have a whole list of news topics and reviews, and you can find so much on that website. I've been a huge fan of theirs for years, actually. Now, thank you very much for tuning into today's episode, where we are going to get into my favorite comic book of all time, and that is The Long Halloween. However, there's going to be a slight twist, and I'm going to be talking about the impact that The Long Halloween had, with a brief history about it, as I think that there is no doubt that this is a comic that has had a lasting impact for Batman fans, movies, video games, all across the board. Now, before we begin, I just have to thank each of our listeners for tuning in and just honestly taking time to even rate and review the show, as it really does go a long way. And if you haven't rate and reviewed the show, please, on either Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, please take a couple minutes of your time if you don't mind, and just write a quick review. There is a little bit of an announcement at the end of this episode, so please stick around, and I will play it before the music hits, okay? Now, where can you follow along? Well, feel free to follow along on X/Twitter at Beyond Bat Signal, and if you want to reach out, shoot me an email at beyondthebatsignal@gmail.com. Again, this is going to be all in the show notes that you can just check out. Now, without further ado, we're going to get into the impact that Batman The Long Halloween has had on, I guess, the Batman franchise. And especially as a fan for myself, this is a comic that I think would be in everybody's top 5. For Ryan Lauer, it's the undisputed number 1. And to be honest, like, it's made such an impression on me. This was the first Batman book I read, and followed by Batman Year One, which I should have kind of flipped it around, but man, am I glad I read this book as probably the first impression, because this comic has been incredible. Written by Jeph Loeb and illustrations by none other than the late Tim Sale. Obviously, you know I'm a big fan as I'm covering Batman The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, and it's been quite a joy to review. And October 8th, I think they're releasing issue 9, and I think at the end of October 28th, they're releasing issue number 10. So looking forward to it. But this is October 1st, and we are going to start The Long Halloween. And I gotta make a couple of minor announcements here, and then like I'd say more like the bigger announcement at the end. So stay tuned. We are going to get into it now. Every good Batman story, or every story in general, has to start somewhere. There's good guidance, there's ideas, and I do believe that people, ideas are from other ideas that are generated, and I think that the best ideas are through collaboration, to be honest. But there is an important figure that is often not mentioned. He did pass away, but they're the ones that are just like, there's always people behind the scenes that are not often heard about and quietly guiding everything behind the scenes. And for the Long Halloween, there was a person that we need to discuss before actually getting into the nitty gritty of like how the Long Halloween came to be and the impact it had. And that person is none other than Archie Goodwin, the legendary Archie Goodwin, who did pass away. But talk about an architect and easily one of the greatest editors in comic book history, where he saw something in Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale, where Jeph Loeb's often said, and if you listen to, there's that Batman comic series, where right now they've gone through year 1, The Long Halloween, and then Dark Victory. And it's been, I forget what it's called. I'm just looking at the podcast right now because I do highly recommend it. It's just called DC High Volume Batman. There's an interview with Jeph Loeb, and he honestly talks so highly of Archie Goodwin. Now there was 3 Halloween specials, in case you didn't know. Now they combined it into a collective where it's just called Haunted Night. But it was a feature in the Legends of the Dark Knight. But there was 3 Halloween specials year after year after year, where Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale were paired up and came up with these Halloween specials, which were honestly I highly recommend, and it's something that we may or may not cover. You're gonna have to stay tuned. But Archie Goodwin had a game-changing question, in my opinion, to the dynamic duo of Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale. And the question was, have you ever thought about writing something longer? And that question right there is what planted the seed for the Long Halloween. And it was Archie who told Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale to take this mob drama that they've been kind of experimenting with and build it into a full year-long murder mystery. Now, obviously, that there's a lot of back and forth between the 3. And Archie Goodwin was the one who basically secured the Falcone crime family. Do you guys say Falcone or is it Falcone? I say Falcone. I guess because of the Italians. But anyway, so, and if you're not sure, where Archie secured the Falcone crime family was through Frank Miller, where he appeared in Batman Year 1. Now, it's no secret that The Long Halloween is a year 2 story, and it took place in Batman's year 2 history, and which I love. And obviously you'll see throughout the story where Batman is making mistakes. It's a detective crime drama, but it has that same nitty-gritty feel as year 1. And anyway, I'm rambling, but Archie Goodwin was encouraging Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale to kind of just, it gave him the confidence to be like, listen, why don't you go off of this definitive Batman origin story and create something bigger, create another definitive Batman story, and create a mob story from that point. Now, we're not going to be completely diving into The Long Halloween as of just yet. in the sense of like I'm not going to be going issue by issue. However, that's going to be for next year. October of next year, 2026, will be the 30th anniversary of Batman The Long Halloween. And we're going to be going issue by issue. And it's going to start off with like in October. And we're going to go through each month that The Long Halloween takes place. This podcast is going to be covering each issue, just like The Long Halloween. But we're going to be starting here with Archie Goodwin and what he did, and how it all kind of began. So Archie Goodwin, as I mentioned, was a comic book editor, a writer, and known for his sharp eye and just like noticing small details and storytelling. You know, you look at the 90s and it's one of the most definitive Batman eras for comic book storytelling. He did serve as Batman's group editor at DC to the early to mid 90s, unfortunately, when he did pass away. And there was no doubt he was highly respected in the industry as one of the best editors, where you had creators like Jeph, Loeb, and Tim Sale often called him their mentor. And righteously so. Like, you know, like the guy was a legend and he came up with such beautiful ideas and helped guide. He's like, listen, he's someone that would look at an idea and try to foster it. And I think that's the role of a good mentor, and providing constructive feedback. Now, what was his role in Batman The Long Halloween? It's a good question. When we think of Archie Goodwin and how The Long Halloween came to be, you got to kind of go back to Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, the Halloween specials, which eventually became Batman Haunted Knight. Again, highly recommend. And Archie Goodwin was the catalyst for Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale at DC, creating these stories. And the success of these stories is what convinced DC that there was room for more of a longer Batman story to tell. And thank God that Archie Goodwin saw exactly what he saw, because what we got was a lifelong, like, you know, as Batman fans, like I said before, this is in our top 5. It has to be for most people, because I know I've seen a couple people like kind of crap on the Batman The Long Halloween, and I hear their opinion. I don't agree with it, but listen, to each their own, right? Archie Goodwin had this editorial guidance, and with people who have such strong, intelligent minds that are able to kind of guide, and like people that are and foster an idea. You know, with Goodwin, unfortunately, he did pass away in 1998, but very active during the development phase of Batman The Long Halloween, which was between 1996 and 97. But he shepherded the early concept, encouraging Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale to expand their Halloween experiments to make it obviously a long Halloween experience and make it a 13-part murder mystery. And something that we really haven't seen before. And, you know, like often a lot of Batman storytellers refer back to, there is a Batman Year 2, but that's been retconned and completely ignored. And we, as comic book and Batman fans, often regard Batman The Long Halloween as that definitive Year 2 story. Even the Batman looks at it as the Year 2, which I'll get into shortly. So Goodwin's influence ensured that the book was going to be grounded, which a lot of Batman fans love, a detective noir, which there was a lot of detective work within that story, and the noir based on how Tim Sale drew that book. Oh my God, like the art is just chef's kiss. And there was, you know, obviously a lot of dedication to Archie Goodwin in Batman The Long Halloween. It literally has it where it's dedicated to Archie Goodwin. And Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale have credited him as the person who brought them together and gave him that freedom to explore Batman in a long-form, atmospheric way. You know, there's not this like, listen, you have to play in this little tiny box. It was, listen, you guys are both very talented. Let me look over your ideas and let's kind of like work together on this rather than, no, here's a box that you have to play in and go. Right? No, he was like, listen, here's the creative freedom. And I feel like when you have that creative freedom to kind of generate ideas and then bounce back and forth, it leads to something special. Clearly, it did. Now, I'm going to talk about a couple of interviews shortly, but Jeph Loeb said without Goodwin's encouragement and faith, The Long Halloween would have never existed like we know it, which is incredible to think of. Continuing on with Archie Goodwin. Now, he didn't obviously script the book, but he was the visionary behind all this and gave Jeph Loeb, Tim Sale the space just in that platform to kind of create that Long Halloween platform. But he did create conditions for the Long Halloween to happen. And what were those conditions? Obviously, he brought the dynamic duo of Jeph Loeb, Tim Sale together, nurtured their voice through Halloween specials, and which we got to see and many fans loved and enjoyed, especially that first Dark Knight special, or the Legends of the Dark Knight special. And he supported the transition into a maxi series. So, like, obviously, Tim Sale, Jeph Loeb, they got the spotlight, but there was no doubt, just like how there's a Godfather in The Long Halloween, Archie Goodwin was definitely the Godfather in The Long Halloween, in terms of the editorial process. And his DNA and fingerprints are all over that story. Now, this was from a quote I got from, I think it's called Comic Book Report. Now, let's see here. Archie Goodwin, our original editor, saw that it was Archie who started this madness. It was Archie who came to us, and I think it's Jeph Loeb that's saying this. It was Archie who came to us after we had done the third Halloween special, and I thought it was it. That was it. And I was going home, and he said to us, have you thought about doing a longer story? I've always loved what you did with those gangsters. Had he either lived in the future or read it, he was just funny to me. But then he dropped a bomb and said, I've spoken to Frank Miller, and he's not going to use any of these characters from year one. Do you want to use the Falcone crime family? So we started talking about what the story was and what's it going to be. This friendship between Batman, Gordon, Harvey Dent, and how that was destroyed by the emergence of Two-Face was really what it was all about at the end of the day. And that was Jeph Loeb who said that. And it was just incredible how from that point where it was, okay, like things started to snowball. And there was huge contributions even after The Long Halloween. There was obviously Dark Victory, written in 1999 all the way to 2000, which was Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale's sequel, focusing on Two-Face and Robin's origin. Catwoman, When in Rome, written in 2004. And these books cemented Jeph Loeb, Tim Sale's Batman work as a definitive trilogy. Obviously, we're getting absolutes. Some are clearly being released right now, as you see in Haunted Night, and I think Long Halloween is going to be in January. There was a huge influence on animation. So Batman The Long Halloween had the animated film, which was highly regarded. Easily, I'd say Mask of the Phantasm, Under the Red Hood, The Long Halloween, my favorite animation stories. But with The Long Halloween, it was more of a faithful two-part adaptation, not a direct adaptation. But they did a great job. That was written by Tim Sheridan. And he talks a lot. Tim Sheridan's been on Ryan Lauer's The Batman Book Club podcast. I highly recommend that you go check that out. And yeah, like, you know, I think DC fans and just Batman fans in general have just embraced that this story is a cornerstone for Batman. There's no doubt about it. Now, in terms of the impact on the comic industry, the return of maxi series format where the Long Halloween proved to readers that it would follow a 13-issue year-long mystery. And we were all just enamored. And although I was too young to collect these comics, I remember at my high school picking out this comic or this graphic novel and reading it, and it was page after page, and I was like, oh my god, who's the holiday killer? Like, it just kept me like wanting more, and it was so like, I was just like, can they make a movie about this? And I remember it was 2006. I was in high school, and our high school had comic books, which was pretty cool. Not only that, it helped revitalize the prestige long-form Batman storytelling, which would pave the way for the works of, obviously, Hush, written by Jeph Loeb, and then even things like The Court of Owls, which was written by Scott Snyder. I always want to say Zack Snyder. Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. Even the Batman, the Rogues Gallery, so that elevated it. I mean, you saw almost all of Batman Rogues Gallery, and this was the Long Halloween was a story about all the freaks, or the mobs, and then eventually the freaks. So every major villain made an appearance. And Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale framed Batman's world as a living mythology where every character had a role, and it was not just the Joker, but everyone, even small, like Calendar Man, had a big role to play. And this became like pretty much the modern standard, where Batman stories today almost give nods to multiple villains. Now, like I said, this is consistently ranked among a lot of fans as top 5 Batman stories of all time and critic lists. I mean, search YouTube top 10 Batman stories, guaranteed that's going to be one of them. But for many fans, and I was told this, like I asked, where do I start reading Batman? And the story always consistently is Year One and The Long Halloween. And The Long Halloween is, to me, is the gateway comic to Batman, because it essentially is accessibility, noir tone, very easy to read, and has like a nice cinematic pacing. And obviously it has its seasonal hook, so there's the holiday murders, but it keeps it a book that people can revisit annually, which for me would be Halloween, which is also rare for comics. I mean, the other one I could think of is Batman Noel. But like things like even Harvey Dent's coin flip scenes, Falcone's prominence, and like, how he was so prominent, and then there's the fall, and then there's like the rise of the freaks that have become shorthanded in adaptations. But many of Batman's creators, writers, filmmakers, game developers openly cite The Long Halloween as a key influence. Just ask Matt Reeves, just ask Christopher Nolan, all highly regarded Batman writers and highly regarded Batman movies. Just look at Batman Begins with Year One and The Dark Knight, where it referred to The Long Halloween. And not only The Long Halloween, or it was the Batman who referred to, actually it was a lot of comics included in that, but The Long Halloween was a key part of it, which, you know how I feel about the Batman. I love it. Can't even wait for the Batman Part 2. So now that I've pretty much discussed like the architect of Archie Goodwin, because the guy cannot go unrecognized. He has to be mentioned when you mention The Long Halloween. His name should be synonymous with Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale, the late Tim Sale, which, it's so sad that we've lost. But, his work clearly lives on with rereading The Long Halloween, Dark Victory, When in Rome, nonstop. There's so many comics that Tim Sale has drawn, and he's truly a unique artist that I love and enjoy. But with that said, it's October 1st as I'm recording, and we're getting into Halloween season. And for me, this is where Gotham is at its creepiest. This story, The Long Halloween, totally belongs in this season, and I love it. And for me, and I'm curious what you guys think, to me, the idea of The Long Halloween is a Batman Halloween story. It just belongs. No different from the Haunted Night series. The Long Halloween belongs in as a Halloween story. And with Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale, this was a 13 issue series that lasted from 1996 all the way to 1997. And honestly, the way that they were able to just deliver with little key aspects, like the holiday killer. There was murders every single month on a holiday, and for us as readers, we had to kind of figure out, who could this be, right? Who's taking out the Falcone crime family? Why? Right? And this was a good mix. Like, for a reader, and you have the writer of Jeph Loeb incorporating the Italian mob, and it had a Godfather feel. There's no doubt about it, where Falcone was the godfather of all of this. And then you have mixed in with superheroes. Like, this is a mix of a murder mystery with a mob story, and then you have like a healthy injection of steroids of Batman, Gordon, and Harvey Dent. And the whole story, I think, is the best origin story of Harvey Dent, where you see him so devoted, no different from Gordon and Batman, but they were all devoted to this, solving this holiday killer, that it consumed their life. And it was, well, what's going to happen, and what's the outcome going to be for all of these gentlemen, and like, how does it impact them in their personal lives? But here with this story, like, I don't want to get too deep into that, but this story, it matters, right? Like, when you look at the influence that The Long Halloween had, its influence clearly was on The Dark Knight and the Batman. It just, like, key aspects. Like, I'll never forget where Gordon, Dent, Batman on the rooftop in the comic, and it was like a straight adaptation that was on film, and it was just chef's kiss. Same thing with the Batman. I remember the start of the Batman where they talk about October 31st, Halloween night, and it was like that little monologue that Robert Pattinson was saying, and just, oh god, it was so good. And they just, like, when I was watching the Batman, it felt like I was watching The Long Halloween in live action. I don't know how you guys felt about that. I personally felt like that's what it felt like. But sorry, I wanted to circle back to The Dark Knight here. Now, even Harvey Dent, straight out of The Long Halloween, when you look at Harvey Dent, and how he wanted to do good, but and then there's also the whole mob being squeezed out, they were scared, they saw the bat signal, they were worried, and who was taking over the mob? And with The Dark Knight, it was a little different because it was by one man, which was Joker. And he basically was taking half the cut from the mob. And he was considered the freak, not the freaks. Like the freaks that were coming out in The Long Halloween pretty much took over the mob. And that was straight from Loeb and Sale, right? And then even the sense of this ticking clock of Batman, Gordon, Dent working together, and then it falls apart at the end. It's no different from The Long Halloween right to the Batman, the Dark Knight movie, where you see them kind of all come together, all very different, where, Harvey is now Two-Face, and he's willing to kill a child rather than stand up for good, right? Like how we started off with the movie. Gordon, unfortunately, where he's always facing a tough task and he's watching his son that's about to get shot. But not only that, he is the one who lets Batman escape, and he's gonna have to chase Batman, and Batman's running away. And listen, he's not a hero, he's the Dark Knight, and he's whatever Gotham needs to be, right? Love that final scene. I still get goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps right now. Holy smokes. But everything fell apart at the end. No different than Batman The Long Halloween. And it was really interesting. Like, it wasn't like this. It was this happy-go-lucky ending. No. Um, and then you look at Matt Reeves The Batman, which, I mean, in all honesty, the Batman film might as well have been like the cousin to The Long Halloween. It was a spiritual cousin, straight up. There was a noir detective tone. Like, this is Batman. Like, every movie, I don't care what anyone says. They say that, oh, none of these Batman movies show Batman as a detective. No, that's BS, right? Like, like, especially this one though. They show the Batman as a detective, where he's wearing these like contacts to kind of discover, and he's going through all these clues, where he's trying to solve a crime. Now, there wasn't as many clues in The Long Halloween as there was in Dark Victory. The clues left behind were, the gun, and there was a dead body, right? But, the noir detective tone and that, like, voiceover narration from Bruce Wayne or whoever you want to call it. And then there's obviously that serial killer mystery, which turns out to just kind of, instead of having it as a holiday killer, it was the Riddler. But that's Loeb and Sale through and through, right? But yeah, like it just feel like the film and then even the video games kind of take an adaptation, and I'm sure we're gonna be seeing a continuation. Like, heck, you kind of see it in the Penguin, but that was more of like a little bit of from the Dark Victory. But I'm sure that we're gonna see it continue with the Batman Part 2. But who knows? Who knows? This still matters. Like, this story goes such a long way. Like, why does The Long Halloween still matter to all of us? And I really do believe it's more than just a story. It's a Batman blueprint to many people of how to tell a year-long story of an epic comic, where readers, like, man, I'm still looking at Batman The Last Halloween. I'm excited for October 8th and October 28th. I can't wait to read these comics. And I want to know who the killer is, right? Like, some people, it's mixed reviews on this third one, or whatever you want to call it, but Batman The Last Halloween, it's kind of mixed reviews. But I'm digging it. I think more than anything that's taking me out of the story is the artist. But it still has that integrity, to be honest, in my opinion. But, and it gave creators that, like, confidence to kind of treat Batman like it's like this crime saga. Like Matt Reeves says, it's an epic crime saga. That's exactly what The Long Halloween is. And it's episodic adventures that, like, The Long Halloween redefined Harvey Dent. It gave it its true origin. We got origin stories, but this was a nice, fleshed out Harvey Dent origin story. It's a fantastic Harvey Dent story. One of the most important characters in the Batman mythos. Kind of reshaped Gotham's villains. I'd say not so much Joker in The Long Halloween. I think, like, he played a part, but not a key part. But he reminded everyone that Batman is at his best when he is a detective trying to solve mysteries and he's in the shadows. And to be honest, like, most importantly, like, everything that came after this was, like, the comics to blockbuster films to the way that even they think of Gotham itself. Like, year one was, there's no doubt, year one was the first, it's the foundation. But the year one walked what's the saying? The year one walked so it can, I don't know, I'm going to butcher it, but I'm just going to say that the year one was the foundation for The Long Halloween to kind of be the blueprint for the house, in my opinion, right? Like, it's the Long Halloween was a blueprint. That's just how I feel. I hope, if you guys disagree, I'm so down to have a conversation about this, and I'd love to post your comments online and just, like, share it and share, like, so I can respond. And it's because I think it's healthy. I love this kind of stuff, because we all have opinions about it, right? I will say, with, I guess, how The Long Halloween, it also kind of shaped modern Batman storytelling. This is just my opinion. which kind of used to be, and we're looking prior to the 90s. I mean, like, it was either super gritty or campy, but then, like, you have this, like, beautiful mixture that Loeb and Sale presented, where it was a nice balance between noir mystery, it was grounded, and then there's, like, larger than life rogues gallery, right? Like, they presented so many and made Calendar Man, in my opinion, mean something. Like, I loved it. He was the Hannibal Lecter in this story that I'm sure you often heard. Then there was like 13 issues, right? It was monthly, holiday timed issues that gave it like a beautiful rhythm, unlike just those typical arcs. It's not arcs, nothing that we've seen before. And then the format was like a nice slow burn, but then you get this beautiful art, which I'll get into in just a second. And really, it just kind of, it's just, I don't know, it's just the way it was handled for a Batman story. And we were patient and we were so dialed in as to who's this holiday killer going to be, which, spoiler alert, like there was multiple, you kind of are given Alberto Falcone as one of the twists, right? You're like, oh, he died, but then again, he's not dead, right? Like he was one of the holiday killers. And then the other one, which makes so much sense, was Gilda Dent. And all she wanted was her husband to be home so they can spend time, build a family. And then the other one is Harvey Dent, right? Like, so there were so many, but it's kind of left in question, right? Like, for us as readers, like, it's left to question. And the only one that really did know was Jeph Loeb, like, who the true holiday killers were. But man, like, the legacy of this story of like a mystery mob drama, like mobs between mobs, right? You have the Falcone crime family and the Maroni crime family just butting heads, and like, which kind of felt like the Godfather-esque, like where the Falcone family was just dropping down like flies one by one, and little did they know it was from someone from the inside, their own family member, and it gave it that psychological depth, which gave it a standard, right? And then, like, I love when there's a good mob story within Batman. Makes it feel a lot more grounded. And you see it, the DNA in the Batman Arkham games, the animated films, heck, even within the Court of Owls, they, like, Scott Snyder really kind of adapted what they saw in the Long Halloween and adapted it to the Court of Owls to kind of extend that nice, long, slow burn story. But I know Matt Reeves, man, like the guy, like, to me, the Batman would not feel nearly as noir or Halloween-esque without the Long Halloween. You don't get the Nolan's Dark Knight the way we know it without the Long Halloween. And then modern comics is just like, man, like this is what we get thanks to none other than the Long Halloween. Now, quickly, I wanted to talk about Loeb's art and what that provided. And I remember just looking at the pages and seeing like Batman in the shadows, and it's just like, wow, like this is Batman. Like he looks so good, especially in the Long Halloween, and I think he even got better in Dark Victory. But the way he kind of showcased Gotham as very gothic and not too bright, but just more muted tones, but like dark, which I really enjoyed and constantly go back to. And I don't think that he is someone that is like Jason Fabok or like, Jim Lee. Like those guys are super detailed. And I love them. They're one of my favorite artists. I'd say Jim Lee, Fabok, Lee Bermejo, who's another one? But, and Tim Sale has to be up there in the top 5. And without question. And it's how he drew the Long Halloween series. I will say, like, a lot of people will say Sale's style is unique, and I agree. It's not cartoony. It feels more of a noir-driven style that he provides, and and provides a lot of good noir atmosphere. And that's Tim Sale, man. Like, I love it. I don't know, his Gotham City shadows, the stretching of skyscrapers. I don't know, like even his Batman, just the way he comes across, like just I don't know, all the shadows, just that grit. It feels like such a dark story that I love seeing in the Batman. And when I look at the Batman, I think of Tim Sale. It's crazy. But it just, I don't know. He's just such a perfect artist for this perfect story. And I really do miss him in the last Halloween, to be honest. But with Sale, he also gave like villains such distinct visuals. Like with the exception of Joker, not my favorite, but like, man, there's no mistake in a Tim Sale Joker with that ugly grin and those, like, how many teeth does that guy have? It's insane. It's over exaggerated and unsettling, but I love it. Scarecrow and all of his limbs, and like that guy's just a living nightmare. And then you got like even the way like Bruce Wayne looks, and he's big, jacked, threatening. Calendar Man just looks creepy, even though he's a C-list villain. They make him feel like an A-list villain, and so important. Like Hannibal Lecter, you think of that story, Silence of the Lambs, and you're like, Hannibal Lecter, that guy. I'm trying not to curse, but that guy, and that's who Calendar Man is, right? And I just think that it was just, he made him feel so chilling. I don't know, and like you can tell with the monotone delivery and just, I don't know, man. But the mood is what makes this, like, Tim Sale creates a mood and an atmosphere, and I freaking love it. And it's just, that's exactly what helps make this story, the story and the art. But Tim Sale's art, my God, it's a home run, and he plays with like the shadow. It feels like I'm reading a movie. That's what it feels like. And each panel is just like, there's darkness is just beautiful with slivers of light catching Batman's eyes, and I don't know, like there's just, I don't know, it just feels like such a noir epic crime saga that's just in the pages of a comic book. And I think it has, there's no doubt, a visual identity, and I'm gonna stay that to finish off this podcast, like, or this episode, is like there's such a visual identity with Batman The Long Halloween in the whole series, and you can just see the influence that it had on Batman, and in this story, and even in Matt Reeves' films. Like, he had to draw from it, there's no doubt. He proved that like Batman just doesn't need to be like this clean, polished superhero, there's no doubt. But he created it where it was like felt messier, grittier, moodier. And not just Batman, but like Gotham itself and like the villains itself. But yeah, I don't know. Like, in all honesty, I just feel like, this is we're at 29 years, and The Long Halloween still is casting a shadow on many stories, and it's often looked at as the top 5 story. Many of us consider it number 1. Shout out to Ryan Lauer. And in this story, like, this is like where they elevated Batman's rogues, gave us a Gotham that feels like such a mystery, so gothic. It felt like like I'm walking in a tragedy, right? And for us readers, like, we keep going back to it. We keep talking about it. Just search YouTube. Heck, I'm doing it right now. And then look at the filmmakers constantly, like Nolan, Reeves, going back to The Long Halloween. But us as fans, we can speak, and I can honestly say that I hold it in high regard as one of the greatest Batman stories of all time. My what's your take question of the day is, where does it fall on your list? Is it the greatest story of all time? I don't know, but I will leave you with that. Now, with that being said, I told you that there's an announcement. And there is going to be a giveaway this month. And it's going to be a prize pack, a Batman prize pack. So what you're going to have to do is rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts. And also follow along on X/Twitter. I will post a comment that will basically say retweet this post to enter for a monthly prize pack, and it'll go along those lines. And you have to follow me on X/Twitter, and everything's going to be in the show notes, but I'll tell you right now, it's at Beyond Bat Signal. and follow, retweet, and then also rate and review the show. So it will go a long way. Now, if you have any questions, comments, want to have a discussion, shoot me an email at beyondthebatsignal@gmail.com. That is all for now. This is my little long Halloween special. Happy October. I am looking forward to it. Finally, Halloween season, fall season, I'm all in. We're in playoffs for MLB. Jays are in it. Hopefully we can play Peter Arvera's team, the Yankees. We'll see. And that's it for now. My name's Dominic. This is Beyond the Bat Signal, and we are signing off.